G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Good, Bad and Ugly. You're here for the round 12 review of the 2023 AFL season. Ripping round it was, plenty to unpack. If you're going to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let's get straight into it. Okay, so since there were 7 games this weekend with the first bye round, I can only fit in 9 topics. It's, sort of hard to squeeze in a few specific moments and teams, etc., but I am going to be trying my best. But the first good we've got is, I just want to kick it off with the close games we had this weekend. The bye rounds, the mid-season, teams, it's crunch time. Teams are really needing to start picking up results. We just saw some really good relentless performances. 2 games I do want to point out was the Giants vs Richmond game and the North vs Essendon game. Both really fantastic games. Just both teams, again, relentless. The pressure was good. The intensity was fantastic. And I think both the losers of the Giants and North Melbourne were very gallant defeat. And unfortunate not to pick up a result. But the first game with Richmond, it was just a win built off belief. I felt they weren't too sexy with how they played. I mean, it's a Richmond style. They always just want to hoof it down there, but they just converted so well with their chances. I think they had somewhere around 47 inside 50s to 70, so they got smacked with the inside 50s, but thanks to Jack Riewoldt, he was fantastic. Slotting home 5 goals, turning back the clock. They were very good in the air as well, the Tigers. I thought Noel Bolter had probably had his best game of the season. Marlon Pickett with 2 goals, kicking that winner on his left boot. Really end-to-end game. The contested game was pretty even too. So yeah, the Tigers finally on the right end of a result too, in Taranto. Genuinely probably a smoky for the Brownlow medal. He just racks up the footy, and he was important in their win as well. And then with the Essendon and North game, I mean, talk about a get out of jail sort of performance from Essendon. They were pretty, lacked a lot of polish, and they were pretty ugly with how they did play throughout stages of that game. They couldn't really defend North's ball movement from time to time, and they were getting smacked in centre clearances throughout stages of that game, but they'll take the 4 points, they'll move on. Zach Merritt was a star, over 35 touches. He was a heavy influence to their game. They've been trying to take control of the game as of late, Essendon, the past few games. They've been playing a lot of uncontested marks, carefully moving their way up the ground. Ridley was really good in the air. Felt like he had a huge influence in the game too. Nick Martin is such an impressive player. His work ethic was really good, getting on a few goals as well. Sammy Draper was clutch too. Stringer as well. Dan Brosey kicking the winner was sensational. So yeah, it was just again an ugly game. Same from the Tigers, but these are sort of the relentless performances you need to have throughout probably the middle stage of the season. Fatigued bodies out there, and needing that bye, and yeah, just relentless efforts there was left, right, and centre. And those close games were fantastic to cap off. Yeah, pretty exciting round 12 of footy. For the next good now, we have to move on to the Gold Coast Suns, because that's now 4 straight wins in Darwin for the Suns the past 2 years. They're very good there in those hot, humid conditions, but conditions alone, their culture is really starting to build now, I think, within the footy club. Stewie Jew's really just built this squad almost from the ground up the past few years, and we're starting to see a bit of fruition and starting to see the fruits really blossom with 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐶𝐼 and Anderson and Rao. Their clearance game again was elite. Adelaide's midfield, look, they started off the game really well. Adelaide, it was a repeat of last week for the Suns. They had a slow start, but they just build their way into the game so well. They have great trust. The clearances alone, that's really what won them the game. They really dominated Adelaide's midfield when the whips were cracking. 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐶𝐼 has been honestly a superstar so far this year. He's kicked 10 goals the past 2 rounds. He's such a smart player, really good, reads the drop zone so well. Great kick of the footy as well. He's been a huge influence for the Suns as of late. Rao continues to dominate in the clearances. Humphrey again, impressive in the midfield. Ballard and Collins, a very underrated key defensive duo. They're going to be a hard team to beat, I think, the Suns, heading into the second half of the year, because the midfield is generally a team you've got to respect now, I think, across all facets of the game. Remember, no 𝐼𝐶 𝐿𝐼 they still have. He's still needed to come back into the team. 𝐿ockie Weller as well. Yes, there was a little bit of fortune with that Bailey Humphrey 50-metre penalty. Probably shouldn't have been a 50-metre penalty, but I guess that's a bit of a karma restored sort of situation with their unlucky stuff they copped from the umpires the week before. So it balances out, I guess you could say, in a way. But yeah, their midfield was impressive. And yeah, they're starting to really play a lot better as the game gets on. That's a really impressive thing about the Suns. They're a strong contested side. A really brilliant win. I think one to cherish. And yeah, they're sitting at 6-6 now, so they're in a good spot. Same spot as last year at this time from last year. So yeah, can they now start to just get a bit of luck? I think that's the main thing for the Suns if they want to make finals. Get a few close wins under their belts, up be strong. But yeah, the culture's really starting to build. They're really starting to grow as a team. Really good win on the weekend over a pretty good Crows side. And moving on to the final good of the round, got to be going with the Geelong Cats with probably one of their most enjoyable and just gutsy wins as of late so far this year. Almost it would have been their 4th loss in a row, the first time since 2006, but it was just gutsy because considering the outs they did have, no Jack Bowes, no Jai Clark, no Dangerfield, no Duncan, no Max Holmes, no Cam Guthrie, who just had surgery, no Menangola, no Radaglia, Gary Rowan obviously back in the team, it was huge. It was so superb. Just looking on paper against the star-studded Bulldogs list, who are a bit lower with the injuries, and just look at the matchups with the midfield. They should be getting smacked, but they did well to break even with the Bulldogs in the midfield. That's what they needed to do, and then you'd punish them when going forward. They were really good, the Cats, on being able to limit Liam Jones, because he's been superb one-on-one so far. He played deep on Hawkins, while Cameron really worked well, high up the ground. Thought the ball movement was really good. They started off a little bit slow, but Tom Stewart back there, the general, was really good. They worked off him, and again, it was just one of those wins built off belief. You know, they looked against the odds with the outs they did have, but they just worked so well with the personnel they had. Atkins had a really strong game in the midfield. Blitzards again showing his versatility in shades of his last year's performances. Bruins really starting to build in the team a little bit more, starting to accumulate more. Was strong in the contest, I felt, as well. Rowan and Myers worked extremely well in the forward half as well, and Mitch Nevitt, I think he will be getting the Rising Star nomination for this round, was just strong in the contest. He's a really impressive young player. He's starting to now grow into the team, just getting more game by game, the second-year player, and racked up the tackles as well. I think he had around 7. So, yeah, really gutsy sort of win from the Cats against the odds with numbers they had out, but they just worked so well with the personnel they had. Felt the defence was strong as a back six, and they're always such a well-balanced team. They're usually, when they're on the Cats, their role plays really work well together. Their ball movement was better from the last few weeks, and I thought they were good with stoppage as well. And yeah, going inside 50, they were neat, which is usually an area they're good at when they're up and about the Cats. So really strong win, probably one I think the Cats fans will definitely cherish. And yes, the season has a pulse for the Cats. And look, I just think with the games they have at home, the players they get back in, they should be making finals. But it was such an important win over, yeah, still an informed Bulldogs side. That has to be said. For the 3 bads now, we'll kick it off with the first one, the Adelaide Crows. Just to shell themselves away from home. I was a little bit sceptical heading into the week for tipping Adelaide, given their haven't been so great away from home. Look at the games they've had away. They've either lost or they've only won that close one. I think it was against the Hawks in Utah. And even that game alone, they were pretty fortunate to just scrape home with that win. So, yeah, that's an area of concern. But just given their game in general against the Suns, a few players really dipped their heads throughout that game. I thought Rory Laird was pretty quiet. Their midfield really seemed to struggle against the Suns, and that's pretty much what cost them the game. Their inability to defend the ball movement. When Duday was out, that seemed to be pretty big out, with a bit of the intercepting game gone and nullified from their team. It was one of Isaac Rankin's quietest games as well. Only had the few touches, didn't kick a goal, and against the former side. And it's almost inexcusable the momentum they gave up, really. They started the game with 35 points in the lead, then they just concede 9 unanswered goals from the Suns, so that's an area of concern. But I think it's just, yeah, in general, the midfield can be inconsistent, and away from home is a struggle. They just seem to be flat track bullies at home. Yeah, the umpiring went against them a little bit, but you can say what about the umpires. I just think their execution and intent in the midfield really cost them. Conceded way too many goals. Defence leaked. A game to forget for the Crows fans. And heading into the second half of the year, could this just be their massive negative when you look at the team as a whole, if they do want to make finals this season? So yeah, it's going to be a tough one for Crows, I think, heading into the second half of the year. Just need to try and play better away from home. Unable to do so, and yeah, game to forget. Move on to the next bad now. We'll go again with the Blues, and yeah, it's just another week of poor footy, really. It's just a recurring theme on the channel, really. Gonna have to keep on talking about them, and only scoring 44.6 goals 8 with the players they do have is unacceptable. I felt 𝐬𝐿𝐼 was serviceable enough. Yeah, he could probably kick 5 or 6 goals, but still 3 goals 3 is pretty good. But 𝐬𝐿𝐼 is just not the player you want to have to kick all your goals. Throughout the second half, they only had about 3 goals, and all of them came from 𝐬𝐼. They just don't get enough output from their smalls. I felt at the start of the game the pressure was really strong against the Demons. They really brought the heat, but they just weren't able to sustain it enough for a full 4 quarters. That's something that really dropped off their intensity throughout these stages of that game, and it just cost them in the end with conceding way too many inside 50s. And yeah, the Ds were pretty scrappy with their performances, but that's just been a struggle as well for the Blues. Their inability to defend transition as of late. So yeah, it's a game that's you know, it was close. They really could have won that game, but again, just not enough output from their forward half. It was really 𝐼𝐻𝐿 or bust. Yeah, 𝐼𝐻𝐿 was working hard, but where's Jesse Motlop? Where's Matty Owies? You know, I felt Zach Fisher was okay from time to time, kicked that goal, and 𝐼𝐻𝐿 as well. They just don't get enough from those particular players, and yes, getting 44 points, it's just not going to do them wonders heading in the second half of the year. They're just going to have to be swinging the axe again. A lot of players coming in and out and etc. They're having personnel problems. Again, their ball movement was inconsistent. And again, going inside 50, it was a field day for 𝐲𝐵 and May. They just kept on, again, bombing it long inside 50. Struggled to lower their eyes. And it's just the game plan's a hot mess. And it was on display again on the weekend for the Blues. And for the final bad, this seems unfair putting North Melbourne in here, but I just want to start by saying it was a really, really strong, high intensity, great effort, brilliant effort even, and the intent was there against the Dons. And it was a shame they were on the wrong end of the scoreline, but you just look at that final quarter, their ball skills, and I think throughout the whole course of that game, did probably cost them the game. I think Jack Ziebell had 3 out on the Falls. They cost them, I think, 2 goals from that too. That's just what really killed them in the end, I felt, when the whips were cracking, when it really mattered. They just struggled to defend a few of those stoppages inside 50, in their defensive 50, which probably did cost them the game. And you hate to see that, because the outs they did have, Greenwood was out, they still don't have LDU, 𝐓𝐶 went out early, you know, the midfielders are having to throw in there, you know, 𝐲𝐿 with a few centre bounces, Wardlaw's game was brilliant. So putting North in the bad category doesn't mean I didn't feel they played bad, it's just because of that end of the game. I felt it did cost them with a few of their ball skills. That's just what's going to happen, I think, with North in general. I don't think they have the right personnel as a whole to be a classy sort of side. But their clearance game in the end, I felt, was pretty strong. Again, they were strong in the setting clearances. And you feel a little bit of sympathy for North in the end. Their past month speed's a really strong block of footy. Intensity starting to improve. You feel the club's building a little bit. But geez, these past few games they've had, they've been unfortunate not to pick up a win. And yeah, the ball skills, I just felt as a whole, probably hurt them in the end to pick up the win. And yeah, they really shocked, I felt, Essendon throughout stage of that game. Clearance game strong, all that whatnot. But yeah, shame to be on the wrong end of the scoreline. And for the 3 uglies now, the first one we've got to kick off with is the Western Bulldogs. I felt like their loss was almost inexcusable with the statistics they did have. They won almost every single stat differential in the book. +4 inside 50s, +60 odd disposals. Disposal efficiency and efficiency inside 50 were better than the Cats. Won the clearance differentials, won the stoppage clearances differentials, won the contest possession by 20. Had all the numbers to win the game, but it was a similar theme of last week where just felt when going inside 50, they're a little bit rushed. They just hacked the ball long in there. I think David King said it. Norton, yeah, he has his moments when taking contested marks, but do they swing him back? Because I feel if Liam Jones is nullified from the game or is not in a position to make an impact, it falls on Tim O'Brien, it falls on Gardner. I just don't think those players alone are good enough. Bailey Smith's a little bit out of form. He's struggling quite a bit. He just always turns the ball over. He's not accumulating enough of the footy. Their midfield, you know, Bontempelli had a strong start in the game, sort of bowed out towards that second half. You just look at the star-studded plays they do have. Richards, of course, is a big out, and obviously Johannesson, so kills a bit of their rebound from half back. I understand that, but you know, the outs Geelong had, the numbers that the Bulldogs had, the stat differentials they had as well. It was just a game that really went to waste. And yeah, it's just their forward structure, I think, really cost them that game. It was ugly when the ball went in there. And again, a few of those goals they conceded off defensive transition, which has always just been a bad thing from them. And conceding the last 5 goals of the game, inexcusable. That's always been a thing with the Bulldogs too, conceding a lot of surge amount of goals. So yeah, game gone to waste. The Bulldogs, I've had these chances to make the top 4. An ugly game in the end for the Bulldogs. Game gone to waste again for 2 weeks in a row. For the next ugly now, we'll go over the Giants game. I hate to put them in here because it was another gallant game from them. It was similar to the North Melbourne game. But their close losses now are really starting to pile on. And you just look, with their close losses they've had, they've been in positions to win games. And of course, that's credit to them. But you hate to see, and I think they deserve to sort of be in the ugly category, just given the close games are sort of thrown away. It was disappointing. They started off the game really slow, but worked their way into it. Their ball movement started to really improve. Toby Green started to get on the end of a few goals towards that second half. You know, Buckley and I think as well Himmelberg moving back. I thought they had some decent games, and Tom Green, again, impressive, but I had a lot of wasted chances. They always, I think this season, the Giants have just been a bit too hacky with their ball movement. I think that's what has costed them games, and conceding that goal from a transition again, which is has been their weak point, I think, this year. Did hurt them in the end, but that's the Giants. They're always going to lack a bit of polish, I feel, this year. Unlucky to be on the wrong side of result. And simply having 23 more inside 50s and not winning the game is an absolute sin. And the end of it as well. But yeah, their intent was brilliant. Pressure was really good. I felt like around the ball they were great. And the slow start, I felt, really burst their bubble and pretty much killed them in this game in the end. So yeah, another close loss they've piled up. You hate to see it, of course, because I've been loving watching them play, and the competitiveness has been solid. But yeah, it's just a lot of those turnovers they still seem to have. A lot of hacky turnovers. That's just something I've always noticed with them. It's efficiency inside 50, 42%. Kick it straight to Bolter and Grimes at times. Not so great with their entries. And yeah, a game they wish they had back, the Giants. Very unlucky in the end. And for the final ugly of this episode, I've got to go with Hawthorn. Not just their first half, but just the performance in general. What a lopsided performance that was. So I think it sort of has to fit in the ugly category. Their second half, I just want to start off by saying their second half was brilliant. The score was 11 goals, 773 to 7 goals, 446. So they won their second half pretty well. Smacked Port Adelaide in dispose as well, and they won the inside 50 count. Josh Weddle, what a star. I thought he was superb. Connor McDonald in the midfield, I felt grew as the game went on. And Bruce, congratulations to 500 goals. Was really good. So they felt their method was really able to work well. The forward hand passes we saw in the second half seemed to work well, really nicely as well. And their transition, a few of their goals they kicked was really nice too. But it was already game over. So as much as their second half was good and it was really credible, some good performances there, I just have to say that Sicily out of the team just seems to kill them with structure in their defensive half. They don't have a voice back there. They don't have a leader back there. The matchups were a struggle. Weddle to kick off the game was on Finlayson. He had a bad start in the game, but grew as the game went on. They were just smacked and eaten alive by Port Adelaide with the inside 50s and then the disposals, controlling the game so well. They struggled to get the ball in their forward half. They're conceding long-range goals, short-range goals, and they're just losing a lot of those 50-50s and stoppages in their defensive half as well. So yeah, we felt this could have been an absolute shellacking. It was 102 to 24 at half-time, so that alone has to be in the ugly category this week. There's just no running carry, and the defensive intent was poor in that first half. So yeah, there's two sides to the tale. I think if you're a Hawks fan, you're really proud of that second half where things were able to work, but it's probably, I guess, at the expense of Port Adelaide slowing down and bodies tiring, but they never gave in. So the effort was really good there, the second half. But yeah, that's going to be one of the first things on the review Monday morning for Sam Mitchell and his boys, because it was inexcusable that first half. They get Sicily back, of course, so it just helps with a bit of their intercepting game and probably a bit of their rebound. But yeah, I think that's just been a bit of the Hawks so far this year. They've just been really bad in patches, especially with defensive intent. So yeah, first half to forget for those Hawks fans. As well, their midfield was sort of eaten alive in that first half. Really struggled with the clearances. Will Day struggled with the tag as well. But they're still a young side. These things are going to happen. But yeah, two sides of the tale. Really poor first half. Really respectable second half, but I just think in general they probably should fit in the ugly category for this episode. So overall, there was another episode of the Good, Bad and Ugly for round 12 of the 2023 AFL season. Again, hard to fit in a few specific moments given there was only 7 games this weekend, but I just think as a whole it was a really good round of footy, really enjoyable, and yeah, it's now crunch time for a few of these teams. So the race for the top 8 is on, of course. If you wanted to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. That'll be much appreciated. And until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.